Hi, I'm going to start a new series now about practicing. It's very quiet here right now. It's summertime and the campus is largely empty, but in just a couple of weeks all our new students will be here, and I and my colleagues are going to be spending a lot of time in private lessons talking with new students about how to practice now that you're on the college level, how to spend all those hours that you have independently in the practice room in a way that's productive and that gets results. Now, the reason this is so much on my mind is, like so many things that are on my mind, it's a result of something I did wrong as a young student, as a young musician. I had no idea how to practice. I love music and have always loved music and was certainly willing to go in there and spend the time, but how to use the time, I had no idea. So usually what I did is I just sort of tried to play pieces without any real idea of what I was doing. So this series is just a few suggestions on ways of using your time in the practice room that you might find useful. Before we talk about actually putting our hands on the instrument, let's talk about some things we can do before that. And I like to call this the artistic vision, and I'll explain a little bit more about what that means. The artistic vision is where you know what this piece of music is supposed to be like when you're done, in great detail. In other words, you are not opening a score and playing notes and trying to read chords and put fingers in places without knowing what the final version of that is going to sound like, exactly what you want. So one of the questions to ask with artistic vision, what is it supposed to be like when I'm done, in great detail? I would compare this with building a house. Now, I know a little bit about building a house because I own one, and I had it built, so I watched them build it. And so I know that there is, for example, a correct order in which you do things. The first thing you have to do is you have to dig a foundation, and then you have to pour in cement, and you have to put in cement blocks, and then after that you can start building the wood stuff on top of that. If you start building wood stuff before you've dug a foundation, you're wasting your time because that won't hold up at all. Likewise, I can't go out into a field and start putting up curtains and arranging furniture if I haven't yet put up the walls or dug the foundation. So you see, there's a correct order in which to do things so that it will be built the right way. Likewise, if I'm making dinner, I can't just start throwing ingredients together. I need to know, before I put in that first ingredient, what is the final dish supposed to taste like? So at the house, what's it supposed to look like? What will be its shape and its structure? With the dinner, what is the flavor? What is the final thing supposed to be like? Before I do even one, before I put butter in the frying pan, I still need to know what the final thing will be. With music, before I play one note or decide whether 2 or 3 or 4 should go on this B flat, I need to know what the final thing's going to be. So with a house, with a floor, you have a floor plan that shows a picture of the finished thing. With dinner, you have a recipe that will explain the flavor of the finished thing. And with music, you have analysis that will show the sound of the finished thing. All right, so here are some suggestions I have in this stage of artistic vision, where you want to have a vision of your piece before you play. First of all, I've got some stuff written out here. Listen to as many performances as you possibly can, on recordings, live, video, audio, whatever, and steal everything. Don't be original, steal everything. My teacher, the great Anne Koscielny, told a story about a student who was learning Chopin nocturnes and didn't want to listen to Rubinstein because the student was afraid that she would sound too much like Rubinstein. Well, and my teacher would laugh and say, believe me, you don't have to worry at all about sounding too much like Rubinstein. You're not going to have that problem. And my teacher said instead, steal the ideas of Rubinstein. Listen to his phrasing, listen to his pedaling, listen to his voicing, listen to his rhythms and so on. And steal things. Just try them out for yourself. So you should be very, very familiar with many different performances of the stuff you're learning. Secondly, listen to other music by the same composer or the same style by different composers from the same period and get a lot of context. If, for example, you're playing Mozart piano sonatas, listen to Mozart symphonies. I didn't do this when I was young. I just opened the Mozart piano book and started pounding away. And it was years later I realized that the Mozart piano sonatas are shorthand versions of symphonies. All of that stuff in the left hand, that's all string writing. That's all the string section. Once you know that, it will affect how you work on it on the piano. So get a lot of context, listen to a lot of other music by the same composer, other composers, the same style, and so on. Now let's get really, really practical here. Learn the tune. Be able to play the tune alone with one hand, memorized. Be able to sing the tune and play a simplified chord accompaniment. Write out the tune and simplified chords just like a jazz fake book chart, and study the phrase structure. Let me go over a few of those things. Don't neglect this thing about learning the actual tune. It's amazing to me how many pianists, including piano majors in college, are actually, if you sit them down and give them the starting pitch and you say, sing this tune of this piece that you've been working on for 2 months, they can't do it. Now, that's incredible, because if you had heard a song over and over again for 2 months, surely you would have learned to sing it. What it shows is that often when we're practicing, we're not really thinking about it as a piece of music. We're thinking about it just as a bunch of tasks for our fingers. So learn the tune. If you really want to know the tune, learn it in several different keys. Transpose it. Then you will know it. I love this idea of making a fake book version. So let's say we're playing, I bet you know this piece. The Schubert G-flat impromptu. Well, if I were going to make a fake book version of that, I would write, of course it's in G-flat, I'd write that B-flat on a treble staff, and then I'd write a G-flat major chord, just a chord symbol. Dum, 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 and then E-flat minor, da, da, and then I think it's C-flat, ya, da, 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 D-flat, okay? Now, I understand the larger picture of what's happening harmonically rather than only knowing the exact sequence of eighth notes that I'm supposed to play. The advantage here is that if I know the harmonic progression, I'm not going to get lost if my finger slips off 1 or 2 notes. But again, so often pianists will play a piece like this, they'll miss one little note in that arpeggio and they're lost because like a chain of paper clips, you know, if one breaks, the whole thing falls. That's too bad. Learn the tune, play the tune alone, play it with a simplified accompaniment, write it out, transpose it. And then once you've done this, study the phrase structure. And now what phrase structure is, it's where do tunes start and how long are the little parts of tunes and how long is the whole thing and where does it end and where are the highs and lows. In a lot of classical music as well as popular music, phrases are built around 4 bars, and when composers make them longer or shorter, they're doing that on purpose for some particular musical reason, and you should know where that is and what that reason is. Study the phrase structure. That will also help you play and create long lines. Supposedly Rachmaninoff said, big line, big musician, small line, small musician. I don't know if he really said that, but he should have. All right, next, learn the form. The form is the large-scale shape of the piece. It's what the sections, how they're organized. So in romantic music, for example, ABA, tripartite form. It does a thing, it does a different thing that's different than the first thing, and then it comes back and does the first thing again. ABA. Sonata form. even if you're in just high school, you can learn what sonata form is. You can know where you are in sonata form. What about variations and all of that kind of stuff? So know the shape of your piece and the key areas that go with every section. All right? You should always know what chord you are on and what key you are in. At any given moment, if the professor blows the whistle, says stop, you should be able to say, I'm in the key of E major and I am on a B dominant 7th chord right now. Or I'm in the key of C minor and I'm on a D half diminished chord right now. You should always know that, and it should run along the bottom of your screen like this, like a little news ticker, on the news programs. While you're playing the piano, there should be harmonic information running in your mind like that. Always know what chord you are on and what key you are in. And finally, a lot of you are not going to have enough character to do this. So I dare you to do this last one. It will set you above your peers because you'll be more determined and more intelligent than they are if you have the guts to do this. Conduct your piece away from the piano. Here's how you do it. Take a score, whatever piece you're doing. How about the G major prelude of Rachmaninoff? And then get a pencil or just with your hand and pretend you have a player over there, pianist over there, who is wonderful, plays accurately, and will do anything the conductor says. All you have to do is gesture, and that pianist will play perfectly. How would you tell this person to play? So I'll start at the beginning. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3. Melody comes in on end of 3, so I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1 to 2. And then when there's a crescendo, I'm going to tell him more, and a diminuendo, less. And when there's a retard, I'm going to hold back, and when there's a fermata, I'm going to say how long, and when it's pianissimo, I'm going to go like this. And I'm going to do the whole piece several times. Here's why. As Vladimir Horowitz said, a lot of pianists become conductors because there are no wrong notes coming out of the stick, and they love that. No more wrong notes ever in my life. And so Horowitz is making fun of conductors. The reality of that is that because there are no wrong notes, you can think only about music. You're not worried about whether you'll get, this big mess of notes. All you have to think about is how the music sounds, and it will free you to notice things, to see things, hear things, imagine things in the music that you would have missed if you had been buried in the swarm of bees of all these 16th notes. We get into these scores and try to play them, and it's like bees buzzing around our heads making us crazy, and we don't even notice what's happening musically. So when you conduct your score, you are freed from that. Just every once in a while, get away from the piano and do this, and you will hear exactly what you want out of your piece. You will have a great artistic vision. So those are some things to do away from the piano. You can do all these things before you even start to play, before you even play middle C one time, and it will give you a clear picture that will help you and support the work that we're now going to do at the piano. So next time, let's talk about going to the piano, how we can spend our time, how to practice. See you then.